The tools are so powerful. I'm going to say also the tools are like essential now, like to do this kind of digital marketing. You know, the journeys start online. You know, 80% of customers plus are kind of using Google as part of their journey, and YouTube as well. And you know, one of my favorite, like, mind-boggling statistics is like 15% of all the searches that we see every day are new.
Hello and welcome to the Armchair Show. I'm your host, Tanisha, and I'm so thrilled to have you guys join us today. Today I am joined by two fantastic guests. And if we just kick off with a little bit of an introduction of who you are, what you do and where you're from, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Sophie. Thanks for having me. I am the head of automotive at Google in the UK. So what that means is I work with the OEMs and some marketplaces on all of their marketing with Google. So search and YouTube and how to get the best out of it and the underlying tech that supports all of that.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Stuart, founder of Barbuck and also a company called Calltracks. Our purpose in life is to identify all the hidden opportunities and make them measurable.
Fantastic.
There you go.
And I guess to kickstart us off, I guess you're in a relatively new role at the moment. So if you could share a little bit about your new role, what does that mean for the industry? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the role new to me. It's been around at Google for a while, but I've been at Google for 6 years, but I was working with retailers before that, so the likes of Marks and Spencer's and John Lewis, and it's been really exciting coming over to auto last year because it's such an incredible time of change in the industry. Everyone keeps saying to me, "Oh, it's a time of huge change." I'm like, but it really is. And I think structurally also quite different from retail because obviously you've got that real challenge of understanding how your marketing is playing through to sales. You don't have that direct, immediate relationship when somebody clicks on something, which is of course your world. Yep. So that's just been really fascinating. Think about how we can support people to get more out of their marketing when they're struggling with measurement or they're having to work harder on measurement and and understand the impact of what they do. But it's also quite an exciting time to be at Auto from a Google perspective because in the last year we've actually launched new products which are specifically targeted at automotive, which is kind of unusual. That was quite exciting. And I think that, again, shows, that it is an exciting space and we're kind of opening up more, more ways for people to connect with their customers. That's been really good.
And can you share a little bit about those products?
Yeah, so there's one called Vehicle Ads. The name has been changing over the past year. That launched. It launched just when I came into the role. It kind of when the UK was the first market out of outside of America, which again is a kind of nice statement of how important our market is from a kind of e-commerce. The sophistication of our customers in the UK is really remarkable in the world, more than any other company in terms of online penetration, any other country in terms of online penetration. But yeah, so Vehicle Ads is that kind of little carousel that you see, when you search for a car and the little carousel comes up with all of the pictures of the cars and makes it really, really easy to shop. And we see huge uptake among kind of OEMs and dealers. And it's kind of remarkable now. It launched, I think it went to 100% of traffic. So that means if someone was searching for it, there was the opportunity for this type of an ad to show up. And that only happened I think in September, October last year. And it's already now, over a third of all of the clicks are going to this format. It's really huge because it's just so people love to shop in a visual way. That's one of the big changes that we've seen over the past few years is people use Google Lens where they hold up their phones and take a photograph of something. You don't just type. Yeah, you can really, exactly that. You take a picture of someone's shirt and go, I want that. Yeah. So it's very. So people really love shopping for cars in a visual way too, and then we see video growing and images. So that's been really huge. And then we've got another one coming up at later, and I think in a month's time, there's actually another auto product coming out called Top Ads, which is kind of exciting. So we're watch this space for, which is also again another
Can
visual.
Can you tell us anything more about it?
It's also a visual. It's feed based. I think that's really important. We can talk a little bit about some of the underlying tech that you need to get the best out of these products. So it's feed based. and it's also visual. So it's also going to be, kind of rich imagery of the cars in place of what previously would just have been a text search ad. So that's kind of the direction of travel, really. I think is like more
Shinier,
feeds,
more
tech,
attractive,
more connections. Yeah, shinier, more pictures.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you rightfully already said that the difference between e-commerce, retail and automotive is the difficulties and challenges with tracking and knowing how our advertising is performing, because the majority of our sales are offline. And Stuart, that's where you come in.
That's where we come in, yeah.
So do you want to explain a little bit about what Barbuck and Calltracks does for dealers and how they help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's split into two camps. You've kind of got the marketing element and you've got the kind of operational element. So from a marketing perspective, we would help clients to identify where they're coming in from. So where are you spending the money? Google ads are smashing it, so on and so forth. I guess the harder part, and this is almost a realization that I've come to in the last 2 or 3 months, is that it's great delivering all these beautiful leads, but if the person who's answering them, picking up the phone, is having a bad morning, how do we know about it? How do we understand that, you spent a lot of money generating that person to pick up the phone? And I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't ring car dealerships just for the fun of it. I look at the pictures online. If I'm calling, I really want something.
Of course.
And it's probably, and we talked about this in the green room, the fact that customers are coming so armed with information, a lot of the time they're engaging because they just can't find that one bit. And that's probably do I want that one or that one? Maybe I can get 3 baby seats in the back of that SUV and maybe I can in that one, but I don't know. And that's going to define which car I buy. And you pick the phone up, let's say, and you ask that question and the person at the other end says, I don't know. What, is that a lead? Should we be getting back to that person? And if that person says, oh, okay, and then the rep tries to take them into a situation where they pop down to the dealership, and the customer says, oh yeah, I'll pop down this week. Okay, then bye. And it's like, well, who knows about that?
Yeah, did they come back? Didn't they? What happened?
Marketing have gone, hey, we've delivered this great opportunity, and the sales manager's saying, what opportunity? I haven't got any. So what we're trying to do is just trying to make, as I say at the beginning, make these leads visible and then measurable, and perhaps get someone who does know to ring that customer back and say, hi, you asked about the baby seats, great news. It takes 4. So there's a room to grow, whatever it is. So yeah, that's what we do. We help facilitate more sales from what you've already got, I suppose.
Fantastic.
I mean, something you said really struck home to me, like measurement. It's the fact that you've got the marketing team saying one thing over here, but the sales team saying something else. One of the things that we find really is key is everybody pulling together to understand what the impact has been. Because to solve that problem, you need your marketing team to know, what the quality of the leads is that they're sending, what are you prepared to pay for them. It takes the sales team to understand, how are they using it, but also, you need the IT team to kind of build better tracking, use something like Calltracks, the services you provide, like, that needs to be built in and kind of integrated. And then you probably need the finance team to be thinking about, well, what was the incrementality of this? What had the benefit? What am I prepared to pay for that lead? And what are the levers to improve it? And one of the things that is so important now, and this is like really is a new thing, I guess, is building that expertise and understanding across all of the, must be a kind of challenge as well in your world.
Yeah, and trying to bring it all together is difficult. And then which bit do you show to who? That's another challenge, because if you show the wrong screen to the wrong person, instantly glaze over, I should be doing something else.com, and off their attention goes. But absolutely. And, and as you say, finance are paying for all this stuff. And when you're being taken through a balance sheet, what's that? We spent £1 million on that. What did we get from it? And I don't know, but everyone else is doing it. Well, it's difficult. And just trying to, people talk about the single customer view. What does that mean? From which sense? Single customer view in your database? Well, that's one thing. Single customer view in the kind of marketplace of your dealership? That's a whole other thing. And at which point, whose customer is it? Is it marketing's? At which point does that come out of the marketing budget and go into the sales budget? So there's as you say, so many moving parts, and I don't think we're there yet, but we're heading in the direction.
Because it's worth saying, we've been talking before about how complicated those journeys are. Like consumers, like the point at which they call, just like you said, they've already they've already done so much research. And we got we got permission from some customers to like kind of track their journeys as they shopped around across the web. And there's one chap which was really typical. It was like 160 touch points looking at OEM websites, dealer websites. He was researching what taxes am I going to have to pay and what's my end of life value. Then, then obviously using like video, YouTube a lot, search. But just the complexity, like how on earth do you know, like you need to have so much testing, so much data, a lot of tracking to know when's the best time to tell the AI, to tell the algorithm to show an ad at the right moment and the right type of ad with the right messaging. So I think that's
we were talking about earlier with AI, weren't we? Saying that it's, traditional search. We're speaking about my car buying journey. Which year did the heated steering wheel come in? I'm asking AI those questions because I can't find the information readily available. I'm guessing that will improve with AI-fed leads and things.
Yeah, and we find people use the different channels for different things. So, someone might use Gemini, do a query which is like around kind of deeper like research, very kind of at the start of their journey, or they're trying to just understand information about a car. And then when they want to do what we would call more of a commercial query. So I'm kind of ready to buy now, or I want to kind of research, or where can I get this? Or actually I need to really understand something about a car. Then they'll turn to search, like Google search. And of course, the other thing that we see is the way that people are using YouTube to search. And we always say that YouTube's like the second biggest search engine. And like huge explosion in people looking at auto content on YouTube. And there it's a lot about comparisons and reviews. So consumers are going out and finding the right channel for the right thing. Going into the dealership's a big part of that. Calling up the dealership, like you described, is a huge part of that. And so as marketeers, we have to keep up to make sure that we're showing up in the right place at the right moment. And that's a real, that's the real challenge that people are grappling with.
And tracking and measurement is becoming even more important. I remember 10, 15 years ago when Google would turn up to an automotive conference, the conversation was, you should be advertising on Google, because so many people in the room still weren't. Now, pretty much every dealer is, predominantly most are. And now the conversation is, well, how do I know what value I'm generating out of my advertising? And that conversation has really changed over the years. And that's where understanding what metrics that you're reporting and why is even more important. And for any dealers that I guess are still sitting here with a question mark thinking, I know I should be on Google, I'm sure it is generating a return, but how do I know? Is there any metrics that you, I guess both from maybe different perspectives, recommend dealers do track and measure?
I think a lot of this is about bringing people, if you're really like from scratch, you think about like, what is the return? What am I prepared to pay for a lead of some kind, and what kind of a lead? And you ultimately are going to have to learn that a little bit through experience and through testing and learning. But it's about building the expertise in the business that you are all, as a group, kind of with different functional hats on, kind of sitting around and looking at the data that comes through. That can, tell you what you paid, and then you'll know if you're making money. And once you hit on a formula that works, of course, you can then use that to massively scale up and grow, because you're confident that when you spend money, it is actually bringing the sales in. And underpinning that is your tracking infrastructure, so making sure that you've got the right tags on your website, or that you're using the right tools to be able to track when somebody calls you. Because the more data you have, it's not just that you can measure it better, but also that data fuels the algorithm. And so the AI, now all of Google's tools have AI built in, so that the AI is the one who's deciding, should we show an ad on YouTube? Should we show an ad on search? Should it be vehicle ads? Should they be calling? Should they be clicking? And so that AI needs the data to help tell it what it should do, whether it got the answer right.
Absolutely.
And so that's a big, should be a big focus, I
Absolutely.
think.
You bring a new apprentice into a dealership, AI, and you then ask them to go and sell the car and talk about the different features and functionalities and how to bring a customer back and so on and so forth. You wouldn't expect them to do it. Well, if you did, crazy. You're going to need to put the programming, the input, the time, the effort. And it's the same thing with the AI. If you don't tell it, for example, we've had 500 phone calls today from Google. Well, that's really good. Did we answer any of them? Because if we haven't got the capacity to deal with the calls we're getting, don't let the AI think that we need more of those, because it will bring you more. So you kind of got to look at the other end and say, well, what are these for? And do we have the capacity? Are they the right kind of things? And once you then feed that back in, and not just phone calls, live chats on the website, just form engagement, someone saying, does it have? How many owners has it got? All that sort of stuff. Again, feed it back to the AI. If you're able to do that, if that's nirvana, then brilliant. And I think the easiest way to do that is just to try as much as possible to put it in one system. And then give it back to the AI, and you'll get more of the types of things you want in the same way you would get the moulded salesperson selling the cars the way you want them to do it, rather than how they think it's better.
Because you should be able to say to the systems, like to your marketing, your PPC, find me more customers who look like this. I know that these customers are the ones who are buying. Or I know that if they do a particular action on my website, maybe they do a car configurator, or they, filter in a particular way, or they call, or they pick up the phone to call. I know those are the ones who are going to generate sales. So find me more of those actions. And so it's about getting that great data loop going.
And having quality data, like you said, because
with the good, you also have, I don't want any more of them. Because they're not the right kind of customer. Because I think we were, the last podcast that the guys were talking about was something about a similar manufacturer name, and talking about bidding on certain stuff. But one made fridges, one made cars, something like that. But yeah, it was interesting that actually we need to exclude that part of the marketing, because if we get fridge inquiries for cars,
I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was Skywell, the new Chinese brand, and Skywell is obviously the brand of car. Skywell also does like water filtration companies.
That's right.
And when you type in Skywell, you now have a concoction of both types of websites coming up, and unless you make it more specific, it's not clear at all. So yeah, the need to exclude those types of
stuff
searches
you don't want. I sell cars, not water
completely.
purifiers.
And we see that more and more with our customers now with Google's new AI functionality. You see the customers where it's working really well, and you see the customers where it's not. And actually it highlights a whole lot of flaws in the marketing strategies themselves, where you realize, well, actually the website is not very clear. Website content is really poor. Our lead tracking is really poor. So therefore, the information that we're feeding into Google is really poor. And Google actually doesn't quite know who we are, what we do, and what we're looking for more of. And you can see that in the AI decisions Google is making. Whereas when all of that information is really clear and is beautiful, Google can make very well-informed decisions.
I should say we make it sound like Google's this kind of like brain that's kind of doing those decisions. But I think it is worth saying that it is the company themselves, that it's the marketeer themselves who is owning all of those levers. So it's more like saying, that you're trying to you're trying to make a cake. Imagine Google's like the oven, right? You're trying to make a cake, and you're doing it, you're not really measuring your ingredients properly. You're just kind of throwing it all together. And you're like, oh my God, this cake is disgusting. And it's like, well, did you have the right ingredients? Did you put the butter in? Because did you forget the butter? Have you tested what happens if you use different amounts of the different ingredients? Did you ask your customer, or are you getting feedback from the customer what kinds of cakes they like? I don't.
Put the cake in and blame the oven. It's
crazy
come out
metaphor,
wrong.
right? So I just, I think the way you described it, I was a bit like, and I think that's important also, because this is something where everybody, what is really amazing is where we see like our partners that we work with really kind of, as they build those skills in their organizations, they become really sophisticated in those strategies, and then they know that, and then it works for them. And but it's a different kind of marketing than what marketing used to be like 20 years ago, when a lot of people started out and you could just do a beautiful ad and put it out there.
It's funny, isn't it? Because to a certain extent now, some dealers trust Google too much, where we've spent 10 years saying advertise on Google. And now some dealers are like, okay, I'll put it on Google and just expect magic to happen and forget that it is marketing like any other channel. And Google is one element, and if you get the ingredients
Which-
wrong, it won't work
so
magic.
yeah, the tools are so powerful. I'm going to say also the tools are like essential now, like
Yep.
to do this kind of digital marketing. You know, the journeys start online. You know, 80% of customers plus are kind of using Google as part of their journey, and YouTube as well. And you know, one of my favorite, like, mind-boggling statistics is like 15% of all the searches that we see every day are new. You can't anticipate
Oh, wow.
what I know. You can't really anticipate what people are going to be searching for.
No.
I mean, it's particularly a problem, obviously, in auto at the moment, where it's changing so fast with new competitors. The scale of how many different cars people compare against each other, that's like doubled in the last 3 years. I mean, it's really
So it's double new. You've got the
huge change.
new product and the new ways that people search for that product.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of multiplier effect. So kind of, you know, that's too much that you can like manually control. So you need to use new AI products to be able to kind of put yourself out there in front of customers. But I think it's about the difference between like good and great is how you can then make sure that the leads are high value, high quality, and that you're using your data in the richest way, and that you're measuring the value it has for you.
Cake mix and oven settings.
Yeah,
correct.
you know, you can make a good cake, but to make a kind of great cake,
Yeah.
you need to just have tried it a few more
And it all
times.
works together. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you get one bit of it wrong, maybe we put salt in, not sugar. Oops.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
good, but tastes horrible. Similar sort of thing.
And I guess if a dealer is finding that their Google advertising is underperforming and it's maybe not generating that return that they would hope on, that they would have expected, what should they do next? What do you recommend? How do they look at those ingredients and figure out what ingredient might be wrong, that it's perhaps salt and not sugar that they've used?
Well, I think the first thing is to think about the whole journey. So I think you made a point about, like, you know, where, you know, what's happening once the person is on the website, what happens once the person actually makes the phone call, because it could be that that's the point at which actually things are falling down. And if something has suddenly changed, then you'd also want to make sure that your tracking hadn't suddenly broken. I've seen that before with all sorts of companies, not just in auto. Or something, or you did a piece of change on your website and suddenly the journey's got
The cost per lead just doubles overnight.
That's usually a sign that something like in the measurement is wrong, rather than that actually
Something's
the marketing
broken.
isn't working usually. But I think if you're thinking, well, how do I continue to optimize and improve this? The first thing I'd say actually is look at, as part of like a longer term roadmap. First thing is look at like what the skills are in the business, or if you're working with an agency, like, because a lot of it often comes down to kind of how quickly are we adopting new AI products. So if like vehicle ads has come out last year, have we adopted vehicle ads? Are we, how much have we adopted it? Have we adopted some of the other new AI products? And how fast are we doing it? And then there's you know, is that who in the organization? So one thing is pace. One thing is like who in the organization it has the skills to manage it, because often you find that it isn't the most senior person who knows what you're doing, because actually these, you know, it's not like you can walk into a dealership and you kind of sniff the air and you know how well it's running and what a slick operation it is. You can't look under the hood in the same way with an online digital algorithm. You've got to think about what are the kind of who in the organization actually has that experience, and how are we using KPIs to track it.
I also think from a dealer perspective, I mean, one dealership to the next, same brand, could be same sort of, not necessarily manufacturer, but same ownership of a retail group, and even same brand, dealer one and dealer two could be a completely different experience. Perhaps you swap the people from one to the other. Does that then swap how the performance of one to the other works? So you've almost, I feel like you've got kind of it from both ends. So what's changed at the top? What marketing have we changed? What spend have we changed? What have we introduced? What have we got rid of? Okay, there's some answers. Now, the other end, that A-star sales manager retired 6 weeks ago, and now conversions have dropped. Hang on a minute, have they? Have they dropped, or is it the kind of top of the funnel, or is it the bottom of the funnel? And just understanding it, it's almost like you've really got to, I believe, look at it at both ends. What's coming out the end of the sausage machine? If there's no sausage meat, is there anything going in the top? Well, yeah, there is. So it's clearly falling out of a hole at the side somewhere. And I know I simplify things with analogies, and my developers hate me for calling things a glorified Excel sheet, but it is. It's putting data in a way that wherever your position is within the business, that you can understand front, middle, end, back.
What is, I guess, one piece of advice, and I think you'll both come at it from completely different angles, which is nice, that you would give to dealers that want to improve their online presence this year? You mean you've obviously got some new products that you might recommend that dealers look at, but I guess from your side of things, how they can improve with the tracking and measuring?
It's me, it's measurement. I mean, I would say try them. Absolutely. Anything that new that comes out, absolutely try it, because the people that get it right are going to lead by, a country mile. So, give it a go. But at the same time, the measurement is really important. So understanding, what did I get from it? How much did it cost me? Great. What did that turn into? Was that a people problem or a process problem? And, it sounds really obvious when I say it, but, just try as much as possible to say, right, well, if we're running this new product and we can track where it comes from, can we look at the leads it's generating? Can we listen to the calls? Even a really simple, you don't need me to do that. You can go out and do that super simple on your phone system, or, look at your leads. And once you understand, yes, they are good, then you've got your answer. Then it's go back and optimize, right?
Yeah, and I think that's spot on. I think if I was to do one thing, like tomorrow, if I was a dealer and I wanted to improve my marketing performance, I would firstly just check and ask myself, how well integrated and supported is my marketing team within the wider organisation? And so is it that the finance, my CFO is sitting at one end of the corridor and my marketing guys at the other end, and they're not really talking to each other? Or are they actually working collaboratively to understand the value of what they generate and to do the analytics together? And I think that then unlocks this conversation around measurement so that you value those leads, because once everyone's confident on that, I've seen in organizations that once people get really confident with the value that marketing is delivering, then it just opens up so many exciting conversations about growth. So it's actually, that's the first thing I do. And once those two teams are kind of talking together, that the next step would be then, okay, now let's all sit together and look at our KPIs, and we can probably do some tech development here, and we can improve our tracking.
And also to be brave, because some stuff you might say might sound to other people a bit rubbing them up the wrong way. I don't know how I want to say that, but just be brave, because if you really think something needs to change, then in that kind of safe environment, when you've got the group of people that really are passionate and care about the business, I don't think there's any kind of wrong comment.
Yeah, like teamwork. I've seen some amazing. It was actually a retailer. One of the most inspirational chief executives I've seen was he wanted to implement something new on the website which hadn't been done before, and he gathered together a whole team, a few people around to advise. And one of the people in the room was really quite junior, but they were the person who really understood what the website was going to look like after they'd made this change. And he turned to this chap at one point in the conversation and said, well, what do you think? Are you happy with what it's going to look like? And I thought, firstly, how amazing that he'd brought this person into the room. And secondly, what an amazing culture that the more junior person was really confident replying and going, well, yeah, I've looked at it, I'm happy. I thought that said so much about the openness and the curiosity and the culture of like being able to speak up in a brave way. And so, and that of course means that everyone is then confident to move faster and try things out.
Oh yeah, fail fast, right?
Yeah.
Fail fast, give it a go.
Yeah.
Get feedback, repeat, better.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point. I see so many marketing managers perhaps struggle to communicate the work that they're doing to senior directors, or the value of the marketing and the advertising that they're doing. And without that communication, sometimes that can lead to the perceptions that it's not working, but actually in reality it is. It's just the confidence to communicate it, and also communicate it in the right language and as marketers, sometimes we use too much jargon.
a lot of
Overcomplicate
jargon.
it.
A lot of acronyms.
So many acronyms, isn't there? And there's new ones coming out every single day,
the
and I struggle to keep up. I'm like,
Yeah, me
what do
too.
you mean? And then they explain. I'm like, oh, why didn't you just say that?
That's why AI is your friend. You can go to Gemini and you
Yes.
say, okay, what does this stand for? And then they give you
100%.
lots of
I
slides.
do that most
sometimes.
days. Yeah, most days. So I guess, I mean, do you have any advice for maybe any marketers that are struggling to justify the value that they're delivering, or they're struggling to communicate it, for how they can have those conversations in a very easy way?
Yeah, what a great question. I mean,
You got that one.
I think there's something about connecting marketing back to business outcomes.
Yep.
So this is it isn't just, we generated this amount of clicks, but look, this is how why we're confident.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes down to like tests or measurement that's been done, and you actually have to take people on that journey with you. So, I worked with one like retailer a year or so ago where the marketing team was like, yeah, this is generating value. But in that case, it was the finance team just didn't really believe it because they didn't understand, or they hadn't got involved in the methodology that had been used of the testing. But actually then everyone sat down on the table, everyone jointly designed the test, and then everyone agreed it. So kind of communication doesn't start in the moment where I say, look at this amazing result that I've had. It starts in the moment where everyone jointly, collaboratively sits around and says, what are we trying to achieve and how are we going to measure it? Okay, well, I think if we do, I agree, that will work. Okay, let's that's how we'll design the test. So I think
it's collaborative communication.
Collaborative communication, it starts earlier on. But and then also when you see the business results, that it obviously helps.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with a marketer a few years ago, and she was saying, running this campaign, and a particular dealership had saying, it's rubbish, it hasn't worked for ages, da, da, da. And she thought, I can see the leads. It doesn't make sense. Turned out that someone had put a filter on the inbox and popped it into another thing, and they'd left since. So all the people weren't looking in that inbox that was filtered down.
Oh my goodness.
And just nothing happened.
But I can imagine everyone just sat there, each person
Going,
just saying, it's working, it's not working. And actually, if you're kind of following it through the tests altogether from the start, that really
collaborative,
helps.
like, what do you expect from it? Well, we've run this, and what we've seen is this. What have you seen? Well, I haven't seen anything. Really?
That's strange. Then you'd spot it a lot earlier, wouldn't you?
Can we put half an hour in, just have a little flick through? It's those ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, they're really good.
I mean, that takes a lot of trust to be able in an organisation to have those kinds of conversations, I think.
Sometimes it just takes a small tweak. I find the language that we use, it's talking and things like, instead of saying sessions, saying website visitors.
Yeah.
Instead of saying conversions, saying, well, in our industry we typically call them inquiries. So talking in a language that makes sense, that instead of talking in our own marketing gibberish that doesn't reflect the way the rest of the business might talk.
Reducing the jargon. I mean, even when we talk about leads, right, with customers, but a lead can mean anything from someone wanted a brochure right through to like a test drive to a sale. So again, like, people might say, we generated this number of leads, and maybe someone in the back of their head is sitting there thinking, well, yeah, but like, how many car sales is that actually going to deliver? So even kind of making sure that people are on the same page about things like that could make
this
a
amount
difference.
of phone calls, this amount of
forms fulfilled. Exactly. We had this
completely.
number of test drives. I mean, it's a bit like, if you think about it, like when a customer comes into a dealer and like trying to communicate the benefits of a particular car to get them excited about the car without using some of the jargon, which we also see. Just quite badly. It's a challenge.
I think as humans, maybe we just like jargon a little too much. It makes us feel really smart, like we know something.
Well, it's quicker to say, I guess.
Check the weather as well, don't forget. Because if it's a sunny day, you'll sell more cars. If it's a rainy day, you'll sell less cars. Maybe, don't know, just saying.
Yeah, there's some amazing personalisation you can do, actually, isn't there, in your messages, if you get really sophisticated about it and understand the rhythms of business and how that
That was one of the first Google ad scripts I remember learning, probably 8, 10, if not longer, years ago was I remember at the dealership that I worked for setting up a script where if it was a sunny day, being able to change the ad creative
Yeah.
to talk about convertibles, and if it was raining and it was miserable, that you wouldn't want to talk about a convertible on a sunny day, and you would talk about an SUV, and you would change the ad copy, and the very very early infancy stages of being able to change
Stuck
that.
with us though, isn't it?
Back in the
Stuck with us.
And an excited 22-year-old that had learned Google Ad scripts for the first
Yeah,
time.
but it's amazing. And actually, I mean, AI makes that kind of thing. One of the challenges customers have is that they can't, is how do you generate all the different variations of an ad that you might need? And actually, AI makes that easier because then you can say, when the weather is like this, or even just very quickly change it. So make the background look rainy, make the background look sunny, change out the car, swap out the car in the ad.
Perfect.
That's good
Fantastic.
weather. It's British England.